Hello and welcome to Adapter Parish episode 35, Airplane. First order of business. If you want to hear us talk even more, you have the chance to do it. 2 weeks ago, we participated in a discussion on the Sherlock Holmes podcast, I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere. We talked to hosts Scott Monty and Burt Wolder about our two Holmes-focused episodes, and, honestly, they couldn't have been nicer as we struggled to sound smart knowing that we didn't have the power to edit our conversations later like we do on this show. We appeared on episode 160, Adapting Sherlock Holmes, and you'll also find a link to it in this episode's show notes. Moving on, as always, before we take to the skies, let's talk about our next episode. On Tuesday, February 12th, we're heading to London to experience floating tea parties, women's suffrage, and a flying nanny named Mary Poppins. We read P.L. Travers' original novel and watched the 1964 Disney classic, as well as 2013's Saving Mr. Banks and this year's Mary Poppins Returns. That'll be up in 2 weeks. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adapterparishcast@gmail.com or tweet at us using the AdaptCast hashtag. You can find all of our show notes at adapterparishcast.com. And with that, on with the show. Airplane. Welcome to Adapter Parish, a podcast about adaptation. I am Jeremy Latour.
And I'm Arielle Lipshaw.
And on Adapter Parish, we believe that explaining the joke always makes it funnier.
So, welcome to this episode.
What are we talking about this episode?
We are talking about the 1980 comedy classic, Airplane.
Oh, AFI Top 100 Comedies of All Time, Airplane?
One of the top 10 funniest movies ever made, American Film Institute, Airplane.
Wow.
Why are we talking about this? Is this an adaptation?
Hubris.
Explain.
Hubris. That's why we're talking about this. That's why we're talking about this very, very funny movie in a very analytical and serious way.
Yeah, because it seems that a lot of the writing on this that we've discovered is either going out of its way to explain why funny things are funny, or going out of its way to just say, this isn't funny and here's why, and just say the joke.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
No, but that's the joke. That's it. It's supposed to be funny. If you don't think it's funny, fine. But you need to do a little bit more. If you don't think it's funny, then just restate the joke.
Well, I was looking on, so I spent a lot of time on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the reviews for Airplane, which are almost unanimously 4 and 5 star out of 5. And I went to the lowest reviews you could go, which is a half a star.
Okay.
And it was amazing how many of those reviews were just, this movie's stupid. Here's some examples of some so-called jokes that are in this movie. And just listing them. And
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, they're jokes.
I just am amazed at the type of person you have to be like, I didn't find this funny, and I'm going to take the time out of my day to explain joke by joke what I didn't find funny. That just seems like a lot of your time on something that you didn't care much about.
It's a sad life to lead,
I suppose. Do you want me to, should we jump right into this? Should I read the back of the box?
I want to say before we do that,
okay,
I want to reassure everybody.
Yeah. This
isn't just going to be us explaining the jokes and listing all of the funny things that happen in the movie.
We haven't quite explained this. Do you want to explain why we are covering this movie on our adaptation podcast, Adapt or Perish? It would seem that this is not an adaptation.
That's a real good catch, sweetie. So, as some people know, Airplane is loosely based on the movie 0 Hour from 1957. And also, in a more general sense, a lot of the kind of airplane-centered disaster movies of the 70s, including, very specifically, Airport 1975.
Yes.
We watched all of these movies.
What a tangled web of weirdness that all of these movies build upon each other. Which I will explain momentarily.
Yeah, I want to get into all of that.
Yeah.
I feel like we should start by talking about Airplane.
Okay.
This classic, funny movie, Airplane.
Yes.
With its crafted jokes.
Yes.
That we will, I have a list of I decided to make a little list of my favorite jokes, so I have a list of about 45 jokes right here.
Okay.
That's not what I'm planning on doing. That's another thing. So I'm now guilty of something that I think a lot of people are guilty of that you're all going to hear here in a second, which is that the movie Airplane's super funny, but I feel like anyone who tries to talk about Airplane also tries to be really funny.
Or just sort of goes out of their way to use a lot of synonyms for the word funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so case in point, I'm
Mhm.
going to read the back of the box
Mhm.
for this movie Airplane. This is the Blu-ray.
I don't know if you're saying it correctly, by the way.
What?
What's the title of this movie?
Airplane!
Airplane! Go on.
Voted one of the 10 funniest movies ever made by the American Film Institute, Airplane is a masterpiece of off-the-wall comedy, featuring Robert Hayes as an ex-fighter pilot forced to take over the controls of an airliner when the flight crew succumbs to food poisoning, Julie Haggerty as his girlfriend / stewardess / co-pilot, and a cast of all-stars, including Robert Stack, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, Leslie Nielsen, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and more. Their hilarious hijinks spoof airplane disaster flicks, religious zealots, television commercials, romantic love. The lists whirl by in rapid succession. That makes no sense. And the story races from one moment of zany fun to the next. That's the end.
I hate that shit.
I just love it spoofs everything from airplane disaster flicks to romantic love. It seems like one of these things is not like the other. Like something very specific, airline disaster movies. The concept of love.
Mhm. This is something I think of every time we do Back of the Box. Like, this is someone's job.
Yeah.
Like, probably a group of people. Like, this had to go through multiple rounds of feedback. Anyway, fucking anyway.
Whatever.
It's all bullshit.
It's fine.
And this is a funny movie.
Yes.
And I think that's actually a pretty accurate encapsulation of the plot.
Yeah, they're on an airplane, food poisoning strikes, a passenger who has a little bit of flying experience but is traumatized has to land the plane, and it is zany.
This is
The end.
accurate.
Yes.
This is accurate. Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Airplane. How do you feel about what's your history with the movie Airplane?
I mean, I feel like this is one of those movies that, like, I mean, I certainly don't remember the first time I saw it. Like, it's one of those things that's on TV. I feel like the moment that you kind of remember is the first time you watch the, like, non-edited for TV version as opposed to the one that's on Comedy Central or whatever. Because there's boobs in this movie.
This was the first time I ever saw boobs in a movie.
Or at all.
That's a really weird reaction to have to that statement that I just made.
Okay.
Yeah, like at all in this movie.
Okay.
Cool. Now it's super weird. I appreciate you so much and love you.
I love you too. Yeah, so I mean, I think we just heard a little bit about your history with this movie, but do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, my dad showed me this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make an assumption about everybody, but I certainly think that a large number of people of our generation who have seen this movie were first shown this movie by their dad.
I think that's right. I mean, think about it this way. Like, as of this recording, the last episode we released was Hunt for Red October, which is like the ultimate dad serious movie. And I feel like this is the ultimate dad comedy.
Yeah.
We're making these episodes for our dads at this point.
I guess so. Yeah.
My dad really liked Hunt for Red October, by the way.
My dad has not said anything to me about it.
Oh, no.
But that's okay. But he definitely showed me Airplane for
Yeah.
the first time. And I have no recollection of my mom ever seeing this movie.
Yeah.
Because this was something that I remember sitting in the living room with my dad watching it. And then I remember, so when the naked lady runs out in front of the screen and jumps up and down, I remember his reaction as much as I remember my reaction, which was just this total kind of like, oh, hey.
Actually, you know what just occurred to me? This is not the first movie that I saw boobs in a movie. You know what it was, actually?
What was
It was Monty Python's Meaning of Life. Remember there's a sketch in it where a man gets like chased off a cliff by topless women?
Wait, are you actually asking me if I remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that movie where 20 topless women were chasing a man down in slow motion. Yes, I remember that.
Why is it comedies that always have the most boobs? What is about that?
Because they know who their audience is?
Yeah, 13-year-old boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, back to Airplane.
Okay,
I want to get something out of the way really quick.
you should do that.
Because we're about to talk about this as a movie that we like.
Uh-huh.
But we've also been talking about it in terms of, like, literally the only thing we've mentioned so far is completely gratuitous nudity that appears in this movie. Literally, the scene where, if you haven't seen this movie or you've only seen the, like, cut for cable edition, There's a scene where everyone on the plane is running around panicking, and it's very funny, and literally a naked woman walks in front of the screen, shakes her boobs at the camera.
Well, she's jumping up and down. Panic. This is us explaining the joke.
Yeah,
this is what I didn't want to do.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is we're talking about this as a movie that we like, and there's gratuitous nudity in it. Nudity in it. That is a hard thing to say. So I think we should just get the female characters underwritten out of the way right away.
All right. How do you feel?
Well, it certainly doesn't pass the Bechdel test.
Nope. Oh, wait. No. There's that whole scene with Randy and the little girl and the mom playing a song. Like, yeah.
I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back.
Don't take it back. Keep going.
So
we cracked it.
So there's female characters in this movie, and they talk to each other about stuff that isn't men.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I mean, if you put this up against Airport 1975, which we're going to talk about in a minute, the female characters...
We're going to talk about it in like an hour.
Yeah, but the female characters are better represented in this. Like, they're strong and capable, and they take care of everything and land the plane. Or they help, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not stupid. I mean, Julie Haggerty is very funny in this. She has this one line that...
Should I just play it?
Yeah.
Elaine, you're a member of this crew. Can you face some unpleasant facts?
No.
All right.
And that just, like, I think you laughed the hardest at anything when we were watching this movie.
I didn't want to make a list of, like, my favorite jokes in the movie, but I was kind of, as we were watching it, because I've seen it a million times, I was making this little kind of informal list in my head of maybe everybody's best delivered line.
Mm-hmm.
And that's her best delivered line.
Yeah.
In the whole movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think, here's the deal. Like, I think there is sort of an exploitative nature of comedy from sort of the 70s. I mean, this was 1980, but sort of, it definitely has that like very 70s mentality. But it's also making fun of the way that women were portrayed in these earlier movies that we're going to talk about. Like, it's making fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's making fun of the exploitative nature of those earlier movies. Not exploitative, but like the way that those earlier movies treat women. So it's doing that, but in order to make fun of it.
So one of the things that we've talked about before, just to build on that, is the idea in comedy of punching up versus punching down.
Sure.
And this, I feel like most good comedy has a really good... The comedies we like are the ones that aren't punching down.
Yes.
And this is a movie that I don't think ever punches down. I think it's punching up because it's punching up at an industry that trucks in stereotypes and sexism. And I think it's making fun of that stuff.
I agree with you. I mean, if someone has an argument against this, I'm certainly open-minded to it, because there's definitely a lot of like jokes that are about race in this movie. But I'm trying to think if any of them are really punching down. Like, there's the two jive guys on the plane, which I think is fun. Like, I think that's funny.
But also, those two guys wrote that dialogue.
Yeah, totally. No,
Like,
I believe that, because I don't think it's making fun of them. It's kind of making fun of the white people that don't understand how they're speaking.
Except for Barbara Billingsley.
Yeah, right. And then the other thing that I'm thinking about is the section where they're in the Peace Corps and they are amongst this like African tribe. But again, I think the joke is that these white people think they know better than this tribe of people that are doing fine, and they're trying to introduce all of these things to them that they have no need for, like Tupperware.
By the way, like, we talked about this, but we 100% owned that Tupperware when I was a kid.
No, we did too.
Like,
100%.
Like, though that specific Tupperware was in my house.
No, we did too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
I do.
Yeah.
Like, I think, okay, so as far as comedies go, it like a lot of things, it's of its time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to stand up on a soapbox and say that Airplane is like the height of socially conscious, responsible comedy.
I don't think that's the case.
But
no.
I do think it stands in kind of the tradition of comedies that punch up versus punching down.
I agree. I do agree. Like, think about how we felt about The Producers, like, which is also a movie that we enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But when we watched it, there were some moments that we were like, oh no,
right,
this is not okay.
But one of the other ones I'm thinking of when we watched The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes.
Sure.
And you meet the troupe of all the ballet dancers.
Yeah.
And they're very, very open about homosexuality and bisexuality.
Yeah.
And that didn't feel like it was punching
very
down.
loving. That felt very loving.
And this is a movie where every single person in here feels like they're in on the joke.
Yes.
And this is something, okay, I guess I am standing on a soapbox right now. I think every single person in this movie is allowed and encouraged to be as funny as they can possibly be.
Sure.
I don't think this is a movie where like only the straight white dudes get to be funny.
No, the women are super funny.
Everyone's
Everyone's funny.
Everyone gets multiple moments in this movie.
Yeah. Like the scene where Randy has the guitar and she's singing and she knocks out the IV. Like the funny part of that is literally 3 women being funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the woman with the guitar getting really into her dumb song, the mom and the little kid like making faces and like dying. That's an all-female very funny scene.
Totally.
So yes, I think we can recommend with clear hearts that you watch this movie.
It is very, very funny.
Yes.
I do want to take a quick tour of the movie and get through some highlights, but I want to give a little background on the movie first about the kind of the creators of this. So this was written and directed by the team of Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker.
A to Z Productions.
Z-A-Z.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
There's like the moment in the movie, doesn't matter. So Jerry Zucker, Jim Abrams, and David Zucker
Yes.
made this. They'd been working together for like 10 years, and they had formed kind of a sketch comedy troupe called the Kentucky Fried Theater in the early 70s. And they had kind of slowly gotten into movies. So in 1977, they made a movie called Kentucky Fried Movie. Have you ever seen it?
Yes, I have seen it.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Like, it's fun. It's a funny movie, but the whole thing is that you're basically, it's like Robot Chicken. You're just changing channels. So it's like commercial parodies and movie parodies, and it's just kind of everything.
Right.
So when they were developing Airplane, we're going to get more into the movie 0 Hour later.
Yeah.
But basically, the reason that this whole movie exists is because in doing prep for Kentucky Fried projects, because that was kind of their branding, they would like just set up the recorder. They would record late night TV so that they could see all the commercials, because commercials in late night TV were super weird. And they were watching one night's recording, and they had inadvertently recorded this movie 0 Hour.
Okay.
And they thought, oh, this is like perfect 1950s movie, super clear plot, first act, second act, third act, high stakes, men are men, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And they thought, oh, this could make a really good like movie parody. Here's what we could do. Let's make a movie where we do the movie 0 Hour with jokes, but then we intersperse it like you're watching late night TV. So we'll intersperse it with a whole bunch of commercials.
Okay.
And they just kind of moved further and further away from that into just making Airplane.
Yeah.
But it was going to be called like Kentucky Fried Airplane.
Okay.
And now it exists
just called
as just
Airplane.
Airplane.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the background on it.
The genesis, if you will.
But the other thing too that I love about this, that I think deserves a ton of respect, is the way they made it. They wrote like 100 drafts of this, and their whole method of operating was just what gets a laugh. It wasn't, and this is the thing I really like about it, it wasn't them saying what's funny, because that's completely subjective.
Right.
It was what gets a laugh.
Sure.
So they might write in jokes that they thought were funny, and they did tons of test screenings after they had shot on college campuses, and they were ruthless. Like, if a joke didn't get a laugh, they cut it. And it doesn't matter if they thought it was funny. If it didn't get a laugh, it was gone. I like that kind of method.
That's good. That's a good method. I mean, I think this is probably part of why this movie has really kind of stood the test of time. Like, it's older than we are, and we're watching it, and it's still really funny.
Super, super funny.
Yeah.
So just as one more piece of background, I want to give an idea of like the oeuvre
Okay.
of Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker.
Sure.
Here are movies, like apart from Airplane and Kentucky Fried Movie, that they were either collectively or individually involved in.
Okay.
Police Squad, Top Secret, Ruthless People, The Naked Gun Trilogy,
Okay.
Hot Shots Part 1 and 2,
Yeah.
Mafia, which, do you remember Mafia?
I do not.
It was another spoof. It was also titled Jane Austen's Mafia.
It has a familiar ring to it. I don't believe I ever saw it.
Basketball.
Okay.
Scary Movie 3 and 4.
Okay. Not 1 and 2.
No, not 1 and 2. They came on later. Well, David Zucker did. And Superhero Movie he produced. Jerry Zucker also directed 3 movies in addition to the ones he directed from that list.
Yes.
Rat Race, First Night with Richard Gere
Yep.
and Sean Connery, and Ghost.
Yes, that I did know. That was like a trivia question recently. I don't know how I knew that, but
Yeah.
yes.
So they have done a lot of interesting things.
Yes.
Let's talk about this movie.
Okay.
If you've seen it, you know the jokes. If you haven't seen it, you should see it because it's very funny.
Yes.
And I don't want to ruin the jokes. But I did make a little list. I made a little top 5 list.
Okay.
With a sixth person as a special mention.
Okay.
I call this list top 5 people who get it.
Okay.
Because we said before, like, everyone's allowed to be in on the joke
Mhm.
and encouraged to be in on the joke. But I feel like there are 5 people in this movie who kind of rise above everybody else
Okay.
in terms of how much they get what they're all doing.
Okay.
So in reverse order.
This is reverse order.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Well, I'll start with my special mention.
Okay.
This person, I think, stands apart from everybody else in the movie. I think they're acting differently than everyone.
Okay.
And that's Steven Stucker as Johnny.
Okay.
So Johnny's the one who he's extraordinarily flamboyant, mugging,
Yes.
looking at the camera. He's in a different movie than everyone
Well,
else.
do you know what it is?
Mhm.
He's the only person in this movie that makes a joke.
Yeah.
He is making jokes. He is responding. You know how like
It's like setups and punchlines.
Yeah, well, like, you know, the thing that people say about Woody Allen movies, like, the weird thing is that nobody ever laughs at it. And, like, people are really, really funny in their comedies, but nobody ever laughs at anything anybody else says.
Mhm.
Everybody takes it very seriously. I hate that we're talking about Woody Allen, by the way.
I know.
He's a piece of shit. But, like, he's the only person in this movie that, like, is responding to something someone is saying to him and giving back a joke, as opposed to giving back something serious that is funny.
Right.
Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that the way all his lines were written, he wrote all of his lines.
Okay.
They just fed him, here's the line before your line, and come up with something funny.
Well, there it is. That falls in line exactly with what I was just saying.
But I think he's necessary in the movie because the movie is kind of defined by how seriously everybody takes it.
Mhm.
And it is the thing I love most about this movie. And I think it's the reason why it works so well is because everyone takes it completely seriously,
Except this guy.
except him. And he allows everyone else to.
Right.
Because I think without him, it would actually be kind of dour.
Sure.
So I love him. He's special mention.
Great.
Number 5, Ethel Merman. She's in 20 seconds of this movie.
We were watching this and I turned to you and I said, she's got to be a good sport. And you were like, yeah, 100%.
Mhm. Everything about her screams, I am game for whatever you want me to do. I'm in. I'm not going to ask questions. I trust you. I'm in. Makes sense and it's funny.
Just to explain the joke, she's playing herself. Okay, not explain the joke. I
don't
won't
even-
explain the joke.
I don't even think it's necessary.
Great, let's move on.
Number 4, Peter Graves.
Who
as
is that? Who is
Captain
that?
Over.
Oh, yes, Captain Over.
Mhm. Now, he hated the script at first.
Yeah.
And didn't want to do it and then was convinced to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He actually took some time to kind of get into the role.
I see.
But the performance he turns in is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he's great.
There's one thing near the beginning that I love that has to do with his performance. When, it's the scene where he has to pick up the courtesy phone at the airport
Mhm.
and he picks up the wrong phone. When they say, no, the white phone, you can hear a laugh in the background. And it was the script supervisor, like, laughing at his performance
That's
on set.
great.
And they kept it in the soundtrack. But he does such an amazing job. And, like,
You're about to explain a joke. I can see it in your face. I can see in your face that there is a joke that you want to explain. And I'm telling you no because you told me no.
I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to reference it. Everything with Joey in the cockpit with Peter Graves is amazing.
Great. Move on.
Number 3, Leslie Nielsen.
Yes.
Not number 1.
No.
No. He didn't get it at first. Like, he auditioned, and I think they wanted him. He was not their first choice.
Well, because he was like a serious actor
Yeah.
before this, right?
Mhm.
Like, this was the thing that made him Leslie Nielsen. Sidebar, if you go on YouTube and you search for Leslie Nielsen, Ben-Hur, he auditioned for one of the series. You can find his screen test for Ben-Hur, a movie he was not in,
Mhm.
but he auditioned for.
I'll
And
link to it in the show notes.
yeah, you can see him very seriously being in Ben-Hur as
Mhm.
like a Roman.
He might come up again if we do some fun Shakespeare stuff, because he was in Forbidden Planet.
Maybe so. I also kind of want to do Ben-Hur at some point.
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
He had to watch 0 Hour first. They said, you're not getting this. You're playing it too broad.
Yeah.
Go watch 0 Hour and look at the doctor and do that.
Yeah.
And then after that, he was amazing. And he has, I think, arguably the best line in the movie.
Which is that?
Don't call me Shirley.
Okay.
Like, I think that's the line.
Sure.
It's the, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
Number 2,
Mm.
Elmer Bernstein.
Who is that?
He is the composer.
Okay.
He is also the composer of The Magnificent Seven, The Ten Commandments, The Great Escape, To Kill a Mockingbird, and Ghostbusters. I actually think he's underappreciated. I think he brings the movie together.
Mhm.
In so many movies, the music is what makes the movie work. And I think the score for Airplane is incredible in how straight it plays it.
Yeah.
There's like one moment where it's like funny, but every piece of music in this movie is...
Are you talking about the Jaws moment?
No, actually, there's a moment later in the movie where there's like a choral voices and it gets really kind of dissonant.
Okay.
And like intentionally funny.
Sure.
But every other thing that he does in the movie, it sounds like the music from 0 Hour.
Right.
It sounds like it should be in a B movie.
Yeah.
So I think he gets it.
Sure.
Number 1.
Okay.
Robert Stack as Rex Kramer.
Okay.
There was a story that I love where someone who didn't get it at first was Lloyd Bridges as Steve McCroskey. And the quote from the directors was that there was a scene happening with Robert Stack and Lloyd Bridges. And Lloyd Bridges was thinking too much about his lines and about how to deliver the joke. And Robert Stack said to Lloyd Bridges, "Lloyd, we are the joke." He got it.
Yeah.
That one quote tells me that he got it more than anyone else in this movie.
Uh-huh.
And again, this is why I think the movie is so funny, because everyone plays it completely straight.
Robert Stack, host of Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes.
By the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was like my childhood favorite show.
You're weird.
Unsolved Mysteries and Rescue 911. People are going to know this. Unsolved Mysteries and Rescue 911 were up against each other like in the evenings on Lifetime, I believe, and that was like every night. That was my destination viewing.
So that's the movie Airplane.
Airplane.
But it's based on this movie 0 Hour.
Well, the funny thing is, I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
I think this is not the most common knowledge. I think people think it's based on Airport 75.
Well, and all like the
and
airport
all
movies.
of these airport movies,
Mhm.
which it is partly. But it is in many cases a shot for shot, word for word. It's not an adaptation, a remake of 0 Hour. You're going to link, of course, to the YouTube video that we watched.
Yeah, there's like a long YouTube video that really goes through all of the similarities.
Yeah.
I mean, not similarities, but quotes.
Yeah. So I want to talk for a minute about a man named Arthur Haley, who for many years I thought was the same person as Alex Haley.
That's a different... You did?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I learned that this year.
Holy shit.
I was confused. Alex Haley, beloved author of Roots. Arthur Haley, British-Canadian author of Airport.
Mm-hmm.
Not the same person. Haley is also spelled differently. So, not the same person. I just want to be clear. If anyone else was confused, I was too. Okay. In 1955, Arthur Haley wrote a script called Flight into Danger, which became a television movie on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
Who was in that movie?
It starred James Doohan
James Doohan?
of Star Trek fame and other people that I don't think anybody would know.
He's the only important one. He's the only reason I asked.
The budget was $18,000 Canadian,
Oh, geez.
according to Wikipedia. It was published in 1959 under the title Runway 08 as a novel, under a pseudonym, I guess. I'm going off Wikipedia. This is fascinating to me. But it was filmed in 1957 as 0 Hour, then again for television in 1971 as Terror in the Sky. In the meantime, Arthur Haley also wrote a book called Airport in 1968, which was adapted into a movie called Airport and again into a movie called Airport 1975.
Like, it served as the basis for all 4 of the airport
Yes,
movies.
this one guy, his 2 different scripts, apparently he was obsessed with airplanes.
Well, he was a pilot, too. Did you read the top of the wiki page?
No. He was in the Royal Air Force and served as a pilot during World War II, eventually rising to the rank of flight lieutenant, and then emigrated to Canada in 1947.
I feel like we make a lot of jokes about the amount of research we do on this show, but I think this is the first time anyone's ever witnessed your research.
Okay.
He deserves a lot of credit, is what you're saying.
I'm saying this man's weird, twisted, very sexist brain was the genesis for all this. So I feel like we have Arthur Haley to thank for this very podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about 0 Hour.
So it came out in 1957, as you say, based on a short story and then a TV movie, written by Arthur Haley, directed by Hal Bartlett. I want to talk about the cast a little bit.
Yeah.
Dana Andrews, who was in a lot of stuff. He was in The Best Years of Our Lives. This was a solid B movie.
Yeah.
He plays a character named Ted Stryker.
Yes.
Which, for those of you who have seen Airplane and not 0 Hour, that will sound familiar. Tell me if any of this sounds familiar.
Yeah.
He is he was an Air Force pilot
In the war.
in the war for the Canadian.
Yeah. This
side.
is all in Canada.
Yeah.
The geography also doesn't make a lot of sense because they're like east of the mountains, but they're going to Vancouver. I don't understand.
I'm literally waving my hand.
He's literally waving his hand.
It's fine. He had a bad accident and got a bunch of guys killed.
Yes.
And now his life is not so great. And he finds out that his wife is taking their son and flying away.
To start a new life.
And he manages to get to the airplane and he buys a ticket and gets right on the plane.
Because that's the thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. And we see his wife, Linda Stryker, played by Linda Darnell, who sadly died a few years later in a fire.
That's terrible.
It was really sad.
Yeah.
And we meet the cast of characters on this airplane.
And his kid, Joey. If any of this is sounding familiar, there's a reason for it.
Mm-hmm. Here are some things that happen on the plane.
Joey gets to go visit the cockpit and is given an airplane, which the pilots keep for their special visitors.
Oh my God, tell me about this pilot. What did I say when he came on screen?
You said...
Can I do a dramatic reenactment?
Yes.
Oh, look at this fucking haircut.
Do you want to talk about the guy who plays the pilot really quick?
Yeah. Well, so this is really interesting. So the pilot is played by an actor. This is his only other screen credit.
Yeah.
He was only in one other movie in 1953, and that movie. Do you know what it was called?
Yes.
What was it called?
Crazy Legs.
Okay. Do you know who it was about?
Crazy Legs.
It was about a guy named Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch, who was a football player, professional football player. And do you know who the actor was who played this character of Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch?
Yes, I do.
Who was it?
It was Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch.
Played himself in one movie and then has one other screen credit.
And it's this.
It is the pilot in 0 Hour. Crazy Legs is my favorite part of the movie.
This man's appearance is something to behold. He looks like a cartoon. I've never seen a jawline like this.
And his nose is like chiseled.
It's not even the word for it.
Chiseled from granite.
Yeah.
He is incredible, but not like...
Not in a good way.
No, he looks like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
He looks like Mr. Incredible.
Yeah.
I hold by this.
Yes.
He's great, but it's just such a delight in the opening credits to see that there's someone in this movie named fucking Crazy Legs.
His name is Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch. That is how he is credited in the movie.
Because he's a fast runner because of
Yes.
his crazy legs.
Well, there's a scene. So if you've seen Airplane, there's a scene where Ted Stryker goes into the bathroom and comes out and he's kind of like sweaty, and the flight attendant asks him if he's okay. In this movie, it's the pilot who's just like wandered to the back of the plane for a drink of water, and it's like, sir, can I get you some Dramamine? It's like, what are you doing? Why are you not flying the plane?
This is not your job.
Yeah.
That's the job of the one stewardess on this entire plane.
She's amazing, by the way.
She's
love
great.
the stewardess. What is her name?
Well, the character is stewardess Janet Turner, and
Yeah.
she's played by Peggy King.
She is
both those names, I believe, are interchangeable, by the way.
She has a kicky short haircut and a little cap, and she's good at her job.
She's fantastic.
Yes. And she's in love with the weird comedian that's also on the plane.
Okay, so her boyfriend, like so-called, they're having some issues. He is a comedian.
Yes.
He is on the flight, and he leads me to my nomination for Sir not appearing in this film.
Please go ahead.
Of the movie Airplane. Patty.
Oh, God.
Do you remember Patty?
Here's what I wrote down about Patty. The hand puppet is terrifying.
So he's a comedian, and his big joke, his big routine is is a fucking weird sock puppet with long hair named Patty.
He's a ventriloquist.
Who's Irish. And so this actor, Jerry Paris, did he look familiar to you?
He looks a little familiar.
Did you watch the Dick Van Dyke Show when you were a kid?
No, I did not.
He directed a whole bunch of that and also played the neighbor.
Cool.
Who was a dentist.
Uh-huh.
He was also in The Untouchables with Robert Stack.
Great.
Which I thought was great.
I've not seen that.
But yeah, he plays a ventriloquist. And the way they did the ventriloquism is it's all ADR.
Mm-hmm.
He recorded all of Patty's dialogue separately. So it just sounds recorded. It's weird and unsettling. And he uses Patty to comfort Joey, who ate fish.
Yes.
And as we all know...
we're coming to that. We're coming to that.
Yes. So sorry. So all these people on the plane are hungry. What do they eat?
Well, they have a choice of meat or fish.
Uh-huh.
And some of them eat the meat.
Yeah.
And then they remember later, yes, I remember. I had meat.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them eat fish. And those who eat fish are about to have a very bad time.
And who are some of the people that eat fish?
Joey.
Joey eats fish. It's no good.
both pilots.
And there's only two of them.
Yeah, there's only two.
There's no navigator.
They both have fish, which, by the way, I don't know if it's like because of this movie or this series of movies, or if it's just actually a thing. But I did like my understanding is it is actually a thing that pilots are not allowed to eat the same food, like if they're on the same flight. Do you have any source for that?
I mean, that's one of those like quote unquote facts that I've never checked.
I think it's true.
But I've heard it and it sounds super plausible.
It makes sense to me.
So I'm on board. And you know what? Honestly, if that isn't the truth, like, you know what? Airplane companies, get on that shit. Implement that.
I mean, my only thought about that for real is that like when you're served a meal on an airplane, it comes with a bunch of stuff that's all the same and then just the main. So like what if the salad on the side was the thing that was poisoned? Do you know what I mean?
Salad can't poison people. What are you talking about?
Well, we just had a romaine lettuce recall.
I just found out. Okay, this fucked me up. I just found out that the reason you can't eat cookie dough, like the second I said this, 90% of the people who are listening to the show know what I'm talking about.
Well, I tweeted about it the other day.
Like, okay, I thought you weren't supposed to eat cookie dough because of the eggs.
Yeah.
It turns out, yes, that's true. You shouldn't eat it because of the eggs.
But
I didn't know it's because the flour can have E. coli in it.
Yeah, well, because the flour is a raw product and it's not processed in any way to make it safe to eat, because the assumption is you're always going to cook flour.
Which is dumb, because of course I'm going to eat cookie dough.
Well, you might get sick.
Yeah, but they should pre-bake it or something like that.
It's not a thing.
So if you want to make cookie dough to eat, you have to bake your flour first to 165 degrees. That's what I've
because they sell
now learned.
Like pre-pasteurized eggs that you can use if you want to make a cookie dough product that can just be eaten as cookie dough, but I don't know what you do about the flour.
You bake it first.
Oh.
You put it on a tray and then you bake it to 165.
Does that work?
I read that.
Oh, okay, fine.
I read it. It's on the CDC website.
Fair enough.
I'll link to it.
Oh, great.
in the show notes.
Fantastic. We are off track.
All
just
right.
like this plane.
So a whole bunch of people ate fish and they're having a bad time.
Okay, so I want to be clear about something. There are two storylines in this movie that in Airplane are combined into the same person. So there's Ted Stryker and his estranged wife. And
soon to be estranged.
She
wants them to be estranged.
Yeah. There's Ted Stryker and his estranged wife and their boy, which in Airplane...
It's three storylines.
It's three
combined
stories
into one.
because the boy is the son of a totally different couple. But then there's the stewardess and her sort of estranged boyfriend.
Hang on. I think I got this.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Here are a whole bunch of Lego pieces.
Yeah.
And let's build a spaceship with them.
Yeah.
So here's one Lego piece. There's a kid named Joey.
Yes.
He is present in 0 Hour and Airplane.
And he's never been up in a plane before.
Nope.
And he has a weird conversation with the captain in both cases.
It's not as weird in 0 Hour.
It's not as weird in 0 Hour.
Admittedly.
It's just normal.
Okay.
But he does get an airplane.
Here's another puzzle piece.
Yes.
And a Lego piece. Ted Stryker is looking for his estranged partner.
Yes. But she's in 0 Hour, not the stewardess, but a different person.
Okay. There is also, here's another Lego piece. There is a awesome plucky blonde stewardess.
Yes.
They are in both.
Yes.
They are in different kind of places.
Yeah.
Because the stewardess in 0 Hour is also having a romantic subplot with someone.
Yes. But he's the weird comedian.
Right. And so in Airplane, she gets split in two, and one version of her gets the romantic subplot with Stryker, and the other one just gets to be blonde stewardess.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that the plot is that they're up in the air. There's a food poisoning situation. The thing that I love about the way that food poisoning apparently works in this universe is that
the
it
universe
makes
of
you,
0 Hour.
In the universe of 0 Hour is that it makes you really sweaty and it makes your stomach hurt. But nobody vomits and nobody poops.
Well, it's 1957.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it gives you stomach ache, like for sure, it gives you stomach ache. It also sets in about 20 minutes after you eat the food, which is not how food poisoning works. Although the doctor does say at one point there must be some toxin in the food. Like, it's not food poisoning per se, it's that the food was in some way contaminated, perhaps. And everybody who ate the fish has got like stomach cramps and is feverish and sweaty.
And also, they're all in danger of dying within 2 hours if they don't get medical attention.
Very clear. And also, the doctor has like special Tic Tacs that he just happens to have in his bag as medicine. And that apparently is the correct medicine that he just happens to be carrying with him.
It's understood that they're pills.
It's got like a little flip top. They're definitely Tic Tacs. So I don't think that's how anything works. Like, you had food poisoning recently.
Yeah.
It sets in like the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you eat something for dinner, you usually wouldn't even wake up in the middle of the night sick. You would wake up in the morning. Like it takes like 12 to 18 hours.
Right. And I had the throwy-uppy kind of food poisoning
You
for
were-
like 4 hours.
You were in the bathroom for many, many hours and you could not go to Disneyland.
Yep.
That was the problem.
Mhm.
I went by myself.
And then we went to Jeopardy the next day.
That's true.
There's like one person listening who has like the yarn up on the wall and the nails, and they're just connecting everything about our
Well,
timeline.
if our friend Amanda is listening, she's like, yes, that's the day we went to Disneyland without Jeremy because he was in the hotel barfing.
I have the throwy-uppy kind.
I just think it's funny that like no one ever gets up from their seat. Like in this movie, they all just stay in their seat like wrapped in blankets, like sweating.
Well, here's the problem. Throwing up isn't serious. Throwing up is funny.
Right.
Which is why in Airplane,
People throw up.
all the time.
There's a lot of throwy uppy, but no poopy. Still none.
Well, I mean, it is a very mature kind of humor.
I'm just like imagining what it would actually be like on an airplane if half the plane was sick with like a stomach thing and like the lines for the bathroom and how disgusting it would immediately get. And it's just horrifying.
Well, I don't
So
wanna-
maybe that's the reason because it's actually not funny.
Have you ever, by the way, been on a plane where they served fish?
No, I've literally never been on a plane where this. I think because of this movie, I don't think anyone would eat fish on a plane.
I can't imagine that that is real, but I'm open to it.
I think sometimes in first class you would get fish.
First class doesn't exist. Did you know that? No one's ever actually taken first class.
I am obsessed with YouTube videos of people flying first class.
I have no proof. I certainly have never taken first class.
It's a real thing.
Whatever.
But I would never order fish on a plane.
Speaking of, in 0 Hour, let's talk about how loosey-goosey this whole plane is. It's like everyone's on a boat. And they're just like, I'm going to get up and move to this seat. And I'm going to go up and get up to move to this seat. I'm going to go say hi to the pilot.
No, that was Airport 1975. That wasn't 0 Hour.
No, it's in 0 Hour too.
All right. Well, in 0 Hour, the funny thing was like he gets on, he buys the ticket like literally as the plane is boarding, jumps on the plane, and the flight attendant is like, "Oh yeah, I guess just take that seat over there." It's like, as you say, it's like getting on a bus. Like there's
Yeah.
no assigned seats. But there's also in 0 Hour, the other thing to be aware of is there's only 37 people on the plane. It's not like a giant
It's like
full
a prop
plane.
plane.
And the other thing too is that the actual aviation mechanics I'm not totally sure about because first of all, they are flying.
You're talking about mechanics in a general sense, not like characters who are mechanics, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
First of all, they're flying above the clouds,
Yes.
but it's raining. So
Right.
where is the rain coming from?
It's coming from the clouds.
That's which are below them.
Well, rain comes from clouds, I understand.
Yes. Second of all, apparently the airspeed of a plane in this era was 120 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Is like you could drive almost as fast.
Yeah.
Like what?
Planes don't have to fly that fast.
They're not flying. They're just flying very slow.
Yeah.
It's a very slow flying plane.
That's how planes worked. I trust Arthur Haley more than anyone else.
I guess it's fair. And then I guess I also wrote, why are they in Canada? But
Well, that's Arthur Haley.
yeah, right. Did you have other things you wanted to talk about 0 Hour?
Oh my God, so many.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, let's skip ahead. Okay, so both the pilots
Are out for the count.
out for the count, and they have to bring in Ted Stryker. And this is like, I think the best example of just a out and out quote.
Yeah.
Because so much of the dialogue from 0 Hour is just in Airplane.
Direct quotes.
And this quote happens. The doctor is talking to the one stewardess, and he says,
Stewardess, what's your first name?
Janet.
Well, Janet, you're a member of this crew. Can you face some unpleasant facts?
I think so.
All right. Unless I can get all these people to a hospital quickly, I can't even be sure of saving their lives.
I don't understand. What is it?
There's something toxic in that food tonight, some kind of bacteria poison.
How did it get there?
Well, there are hundreds of ways. That's not important. What is important, these people need hospital facilities. Stimulants, intravenous treatment for shock.
But the pilots. How are we gonna land?
Is there anybody else on board who can land this plane?
There's no one on board from the airline. I don't know about anybody else.
How many passengers are there?
38.
I think you ought to know what our chances are. The life of everybody aboard depends on just one thing. Finding someone back there who not only can fly this plane, but who didn't have fish for dinner.
okay, so we just re-listened to it. I forgot just how much is packed into that like 1 minute of dialogue. It's so watching this movie and Airport 1975 was like one of the most delightful experiences I have ever had.
Yeah.
Because I love Airplane and I've never seen these movies before.
It was so crazy.
So much fun.
Okay, so everyone's very sick,
Mhm.
as I say.
By the way, the line that I was talking about was the find someone who can fly a plane and didn't have fish for dinner.
Yes, yes.
It's amazing.
But like probably 60% of the other dialogue in Airplane is just straight from this movie. Would you say like 50 to 60%?
Anything that's not a joke is, I would say, like, anything that isn't a joke is like, 60% of that is for just directly from Zero Hour.
Or even like just the dialogue with like a little something thrown in, like the speech that Julie Haggerty gives to Ted Stryker about how I can't live with a man that I don't respect. That's 100% the dialogue, the line that his wife says to him, except the little thing that gets thrown in about, well, I would sit on your face and then we'd go and watch the sunset. The part about sitting on your face is not from Zero Hour.
Exactly.
So
they get Dana Andrews.
They get Dana Andrews, who is traumatized because of his war experience.
And there's one character we now meet.
Yes.
Who we have not met yet. Who is Captain Treleaven.
Yes.
Who's played by Sterling Hayden.
Okay. I freaked out because I said, who do I know that? How do I know this guy? How do I know this guy? I looked him up on Wikipedia. He's
No, I always knew him as he's the precious bodily fluids guy from Dr. Strangelove.
He's Captain McCluskey from The Godfather.
Which arguably, yes, is a better known thing.
There it is.
That makes more sense.
So it's the exact same plot as Airplane. They knew each other in the war. He's kind of reluctant to do this because he was like, Stryker and I have a history. Like, I don't want to remind him of times when things weren't so good. And the other guy's like, things aren't so good now. God help me, gotta talk him right down to the ground. What are you laughing at?
I just forgot about all this. It's fucking delightful. Go on.
It's okay. So Stryker's very upset because he hates this guy and thinks that this guy blames him for the death of his like war comrades, which he kind of does.
Yeah.
And he thinks Stryker's a bad pilot.
Well, it's just like an Airplane. Like if he does, he also understands that Stryker's the only one who can get these people on the ground.
He's actually very supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the whole line at the end of Airplane where he says, like, a lot of people here, me included, would like to buy you a beer and shake your hand.
That's straight from Zero Hour.
Straight from it.
Yeah. And so basically he is able to talk him through landing the plane with the help of his wife to work the radio.
Yes.
Yes. And by the end of the movie, and also like the stakes are very high because their son is very sick.
Right.
So the thing that is actually a little bit different, I don't know why I'm getting like very serious about this. The thing that's very different from Airplane is that when they get to where they're supposed to land, the people on the ground don't want him to land because it's actually too foggy. But he's like, I'm taking control. I'm going to land because all these people are actually going to die. We can't fly around out here for 2 hours because my son is dying.
Stakes are very high.
And the guy on the ground, Sterling, what's his name?
Captain Treleaven.
Captain Treleaven is like, well, it's and the other guy at air traffic control is arguing with him like, no, don't let him land the plane. And he's like, he's a captain. It's his ship now, which I actually liked. Like, that was a very sincere moment in this movie that I liked.
So this was a really funny anecdote from Airplane that I loved from the directors. So in Airplane, Robert Stack does that same line, but it goes a little bit further because he says this.
He'll never make it in this soup. Never. Not one chance in a million.
I know. But it's his ship now, his command. He's in charge. He's a boss, head man, top dog, big cheese, a head honcho.
Captain, look at this.
Like, apparently that whole run was based on a comedian friend of the director's who did a Robert Stack impression.
Okay.
Who did that run. They wrote it into the movie, gave it to Robert Stack, but he didn't know how to do it. So they had to do the impression to him to tell him how he was supposed to say it. I think that's great.
Wow. So anyway, he brings the plane in. They land. They kind of saunter off the plane without a lot of urgency. Given
the wheels are broken.
Given the fact that their kid is like dying in the back. But we're given to understand that everybody's okay.
Right.
Yes. And thus the movie ends.
They don't lose anybody.
No.
one
Like
dies.
everyone's fine.
Yeah.
Everyone's fine despite the grave circumstances.
So that's 0 Hour.
Yes.
Now, I didn't know what to expect watching 0 Hour in Airport 75.
Right.
Because I had heard for a long time that Airplane was based on 0 Hour, but also, like, I knew that the sick girl and the singing with the guitar, like, I knew that was in Airport 75.
Right.
And there were also, like, 4 airport movies, but, like, Airport 75 was always the one I heard about.
Right.
So I didn't know how these movies were going to get incorporated into Airplane.
Right.
And this is the best way that I think I can describe it. Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker built a house. the foundation and the basic architecture of the building was based on the movie 0 Hour.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the decoration and the wallpaper and the furniture, that's all Airport 75.
Yeah.
Like, Airplane really, really feels like Airport 75.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff in it. Like, there's all this stuff at the beginning before the plane even lifts off, with everyone walking through the airport and you meeting all of the characters. That's all from Airport 75.
Right.
Even so, there's the little girl who's getting on the plane because she needs a kidney transplant in
Yes.
Airport 75. It's a heart transplant in Airplane.
Right.
One of the characters gets on the phone with a doctor.
At the Mayo Clinic.
Well, it's
No, it's not the Mayo
It's not
Clinic.
the Mayo Clinic, but like that's in Airport 75.
Yeah, you laughed so hard when you saw that.
I was just delighted.
Well, and also like the fact that it's the stewardess kind of leaving her boyfriend who's not been treating her great to get on the plane and saying like, I don't really want to talk. Our relationship is over after this flight. Like that's Airport 75.
Yeah.
So let's say who the boyfriend is really quick.
I want to. Can I go through the whole cast?
Yeah.
This cast is bonkers.
Okay.
Now, Airport was 1970.
Yeah.
I feel like it is important just to say that that's what started all of this.
Yeah.
And here are some people who were in Airport: Burt Lancaster, Dean Martin, many other people, and George Kennedy.
We did not watch this movie, just to be clear.
Airport 75, the only person who's in all of the Airport movies is George Kennedy.
Yeah, he's
as
like
vice president of the airline.
Yeah.
They wanted to get him for Airplane, but he wouldn't do it because he had been in all of the Airport movies.
Right.
But then they hired him to be in Police Squad and Naked Gun. Then there was Airport 77,
Mm-hmm.
and that had Jack Lemmon, Jimmy Stewart, Olivia de Havilland, and George Kennedy.
I want to watch that.
I don't.
I do.
Have fun. Then in 1979, there was The Concorde, Airport 79, starring Robert Wagner and George Kennedy.
Okay.
It was made for a budget of $13 million.
Okay.
It made $10 million.
That's not good.
And then they stopped making airport movies.
That's
So
probably bad.
Airport 75 sits in the middle of all of these.
Yes.
It was not as big a hit as the first one.
Yes.
But holy shit, what a cast.
It's very fine.
We meet Captain Alan Murdoch, played by Charlton Heston.
Oh. So something that Jeremy finds really delightful, I think, is my newfound appreciation for Robert Redford. And so while we were watching this, he just turned to me and said, do you have sort of the opposite thing with Charlton Heston that you do with Robert Redford? Like, as you just like get older and know more about him, is he just grosser and grosser? And I was like, yeah, pretty much.
I am not a fan of Charlton Heston.
He's awful.
Like,
he's so unattractive. And he's like the hero of the piece.
Mhm.
He's like the manly hunk.
in his yellow turtleneck. Well, okay, do you want to... So, in Charlton Heston's mind...
I don't want to say anything body shaming about anyone, but
But in his mind, Charlton Heston is the most attractive and virile and manly man in the world.
yeah. So we were watching and he's wearing a yellow knit turtleneck.
Tucked into his brown slacks.
And I said, what is going on with his stomach? There's something weird about his stomach. What is happening there? And Jeremy said,
He's fat and he's wearing a girdle.
I just want to be clear. It's not nice to call someone fat.
No.
But I think Charlton Heston deserves to be insulted.
I am someone who deals with body issues.
Yes.
I want to be very clear about that.
Yes. There's also nothing wrong with being fat.
Yeah, but he's doing some weird stuff in his turtleneck.
It just makes him look very strange.
He is like the hero of the whole thing. Whatever, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
The real hero, though, is Karen Black
Yeah.
as Nancy Pryor, who is his on-again, off-again girlfriend.
Yeah.
And also the, like, stewardess in chief of the flight.
She's basically flying the plane for 90% of the movie.
Mhm.
And-
We haven't even gotten to why, but we will.
Yeah. So I want to be clear again. This is going to sound very body shamey, and I don't mean it because anyone can have a lazy eye, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I feel like if I had a lazy eye and I was in a movie, I would hope that the cinematographer would not shoot me in the way that Karen Black is constantly shot in this movie. I feel really bad for her because Charlton Heston's very tall, right? So she's like looking up into his face, and like basically the camera is set in such a way that her eye just is constantly turning in towards the camera. It looks really weird. And I really feel like you can shoot someone with a lazy eye in a way that doesn't make them look completely cross-eyed for the whole movie.
Well, you can make Tom Cruise look like he's 6 foot tall
That's
in a
right.
movie.
Like, you can do anything. So, like, I just feel bad because whoever shot this movie made her look bad, and I don't think she needed to look that bad. Like,
I mean,
it's a pretty common thing to have a lazy eye.
It's like one in a long line of things that are indicative of this movie being shot on a low budget.
That's right.
By people who didn't care that much.
That's right.
It's, by the way, let's get it out of the way. Did you find this to be a successful movie?
Yeah.
Did you find it to be like a good movie?
No.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
There we go. I enjoyed so much. So Karen Black, though, as you say, she flies the plane for most
the
of
hero,
the movie.
and she's like, she keeps all the other, like, unlike 0 Hour, where there's only one flight attendant on the whole plane, and she's like the only person that really has to do anything. There's like this is a huge 747, so there's an entire staff of flight attendants, but she's the head one. So it's her job to keep everybody calm and like doing their job. And she doesn't freak out when she's amongst them. She only freaks out when she's like
the only one
flying the plane. Yeah.
Okay. Got a few other people.
Yes.
There's George Kennedy, as we mentioned, vice president of the airline.
Yes.
His wife and child are on this plane.
That's right.
His child, by the way,
Joey.
Joe Jr., doesn't go to the cockpit.
No, he doesn't.
Nope. This is more of just an Arthur Haley thing.
Yeah. Apparently they like to have
Arthur Haley.
That's right.
Not
No,
Alex
no,
Haley.
you're right. You were right the first time.
Okay, good.
They just like to have a kid in peril.
Then we get the pilots. So there's 3. This is the pilot, co-pilot, navigator. What pieces of shit motherfuckers are these?
Okay, so we want them. They do die, and we want them all to die.
2 of them.
The worst ones die.
Okay, I feel like we need to talk about, before we can talk about how they die, we need to talk about one other actor who's in this movie.
Who's that?
Not the last one we're going to talk about, but one other.
Okay.
Dana Andrews of 0 Hour, Ted Stryker of 0 Hour, is also in Airport 75.
In kind of a cameo role.
As Scott Freeman.
Yes.
Like a cameo, but
a
like,
big cameo.
You could say more central to the plot than anyone.
Truly.
He is an older pilot.
Yeah.
Flying a little plane.
He's got to get somewhere because he's like a salesman and he's got to be at this meeting or whatever.
And what happens to him mid-flight?
He bites it.
Has a heart attack.
Yeah.
And then his little plane crashes into the big plane. And
yes.
Can I describe this?
Yeah.
Okay. So the special effects in this movie are dog shit. Basically, anytime someone's looking out a window, it's clearly like a projection of film. The pilots of the big plane look out the front, and suddenly they're like, "Hot shit! What? Huh? Oh, jeez!" Because there's a little
much
plane,
like your dad when boobs came on the screen.
right? There's a little plane flying straight at them, but like, because it's just footage, it's not moving.
Yeah.
Like, it's not coming towards them. It's just suddenly in front of them, hanging there.
Yeah.
And there's a big crash. Like, Dana Andrews is already like dying at this point.
Yeah, he's died.
We assume he is now fully dead.
Yeah.
Rips a hole
in the windshield.
in the cockpit on the right side.
Over the co-pilot's seat.
Right. That's just big enough for a person to go through.
And sure enough,
the co-pilot is gone.
Instantly. And he was like the biggest piece of shit of them all, so it's good for him.
No, he's not.
He was saying nasty things about the blonde flight attendant.
Yeah, but Eric Estrada's the one who's cheating on his wife.
No, they're both cheating on their wives.
They're both pieces of shit, and they both bite it immediately.
Yeah. Yes, and Julio also bites it.
Yeah, so Eric Estrada of Chips is the navigator. He just gets like impaled in his head. So he's still there, but dead.
He's dead.
Yeah.
There's some Latino stereotyping in this that's like a little bit unpleasant.
Oh, we haven't even gotten to how this movie deals with stereotypes.
Yeah.
But then we also have the pilot, played by Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.
That's an amazing name.
I know, right? Well, he's been in a ton of shit.
Ephraim Zimbalist.
He doesn't die.
He lives.
He is blinded.
He's fully blinded.
And very out of it.
Yeah.
So he's useless. He's also, by the way, a piece of shit. And he's like the textbook enabler.
Yeah.
Like he's the
like,
one.
you guys with your talking about women.
Like they have to divert the plane because they're going to land in California, but they have to land in Salt Lake City instead.
Yeah.
And for reasons that have nothing to do with all of this. And he literally says, "You guys going to be lonely tonight?" And Eric Estrada goes, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out his little black book because he's got women in every city.
Yeah, because
and
he's
they're
a
like,
pilot.
"No, we're going to be fine." And the pilot is just an enabler.
Literally
and an
any
asshole.
dialogue that the pilots speak up until the bad event is either about flying the plane and how great they are at flying the plane, or about how they're going to bone ladies and how ladies are there for them to bone.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it.
They're pieces of shit.
They're terrible.
Two
We're
of them,
glad that they die.
Two of them die immediately, and the pilot is blinded and useless.
Yes.
And that's when Karen Black walks in. And, like, admittedly, I think, to be fair, has a bit of a reaction.
Freaks the fuck out. Which I said, I don't know how realistic this is, because flight attendants are really trained to deal with a crisis. And you said, but they're not trained to deal with this.
On your side, though, I was reading about a lot of the initial reaction to this movie.
Yeah.
That was a very common complaint among a lot of the people who were reviewing this movie.
I mean, I would imagine, like, she just literally starts screaming, help us," into the radio.
It is
and I
much.
just think a flight attendant would at least know to be calm. And I have to imagine, just in case they're given some very basic information on, like, how to fly the plane. Right? Like, they probably can't take off and land, but they probably, like, know what the instruments do.
Honestly, so two things. One, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to be very, very clear. I don't actually know. But I have an assumption, which is that they are not. Because what are the odds that there would ever be a situation where the entire flight crew is incapacitated and the plane will still be okay enough that one of the flight attendants can land it?
What if they had fish for dinner?
Yeah, but as you say, the assumed truth is that they can't all have the same dinner.
But what if the poison is in those terrible rolls that they give you?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone listening has some insight. As always, we invite your input.
Great. So anyway.
There's a few other people on the plane that we need to talk about.
Okay.
And this gets to something that is, like, I think one of the most delightful things about the movie. Also problematic, but delightful. This is a 70s disaster movie.
Oh, yeah.
It trucks in stereotypes.
Yeah, sure does.
In every way imaginable, which is why one of the things I love about Airplane is that it does have tons of stereotypes, but not because that's what the filmmakers thought it should have.
Right.
It's because it's making fun of the types of movies where every single person is a stereotype.
Right. Well, the thing that's in this movie that's not in either of the other two is there's a clear divide between first class and the back of the plane.
Oh, totally.
So, like, we have some stereotypes about the kind of people that are in first class and some stereotypes about the kind of people that would be in coach.
Mm-hmm. One example that I would give for, like, a good movie of the time period that, is all about stereotypes is, I feel like it's come up on the show before, but The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Sure.
With Walter Matthau. If you haven't seen it, definitely see it. It is highly recommended. Really, really good. Everyone in that movie is a stereotype,
Right.
but it is also a delightful movie and good.
Yes.
This
was delightful, but not good.
Not good, right. But everyone's a stereotype. So here are some people that are on the plane. There is Gloria Swanson as herself.
Why?
I can't remember who they wanted.
Did you say she wrote her own dialogue?
Yes.
She just keeps, like, opining things, and it's, like, really very, like, how great she is.
Well, the subplot is that she's writing her memoirs.
Right.
She's writing her autobiography actively while
Right.
she's doing it.
With her, like, young secretary.
And honestly, consider she doesn't actually come off as that
She's
bad
got
in
the
the
last
movie.
line of the movie.
Yeah, and this was her last movie.
Oh.
Yeah, she died not long after.
Bless her.
So she's up in first class. There's another, like, member of Hollywood royalty who's relegated to, like, economy.
And not playing herself.
And Myrna Loy is in this movie.
Yeah.
She's goddamn royalty.
Drinking Boilermakers.
Yep. She's badass.
Yeah.
I really like Myrna Loy in this. She's sitting next to Sid Caesar.
Sid Caesar, who does, like, the most amazing, like, classic example of mansplaining. So she keeps Myrna Loy keeps ordering a bourbon with a beer chaser that she drinks a lot through
Right.
the whole movie. And he's, like, this just super obnoxious dude. And he's just constantly, like, talking to people in ways that are annoying. But he leans over to her at one point and says, "Hey, do you know what you just ordered? Huh, they call that a Boilermaker. You just ordered a Boilermaker." She's like, "Yeah, I know. Like, that's what I drink.
Uh-huh.
I don't, what?"
And it's really funny because I feel like in all of these movies, there is a shot. So in 0 Hour, there is a shot of someone offering their, like, seat companion alcohol.
Yes.
Because there's that old Irish guy.
Yes.
Who's kind of delightful.
Yeah, he's
And he's
great.
got a giant bottle of scotch.
They're going to see, like, a football game or something.
Right. And he's offering a drink to the woman next to him. She doesn't want any part of it.
Right.
In Airplane, there's the great scene where someone offers the woman next to him a drink and she says, "Of course not," and then proceeds to snort cocaine.
Right.
And then in this, she's the one who's offering alcohol to the guy sitting next to her.
And he says, I don't drink. And she
Right.
says, well, now's the time to pretend.
That's a different movie.
Okay.
Okay. There is a singing nun. Do we need to talk about the singing nun?
Yeah, she's played by Helen Reddy.
I know.
She's so cute.
Helen Reddy of Pete's Dragon.
We
Which we
have
just
like
did.
a newfound love for Helen Reddy. She's just adorable.
She's an adorable little fantastic singer who's also a good actor, and I love her.
Yes. And she sings a song to a dying child who's played by
Linda Blair.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what would possess her to be in this. I'm going to cut that. I'm cutting that. I'm
no.
cutting that. I'm like for real cutting that.
Why are you cutting that?
It's awful.
No, that was amazing.
Ugh.
Don't cut it.
Blah.
Linda Blair's dialogue in this, if you've seen Airplane, it's exactly the same dialogue as the dying child in Airplane, except she has a guitar.
Right.
So the nun comes back and plays the guitar for her.
And she's not hooked up to a tube.
No.
That's
no,
all
She just
added.
has to lie very still and be calm.
Right. And so I guess
Because she can't be off the kidney machine for very long.
in an Airplane, they tried to get Helen Reddy
Oh,
to
really?
play the nun
Aw.
and couldn't do it.
Oh, man.
So they had to like move things around, but like still, it is a nun with a guitar, even though she's not the one singing the song in Airplane.
Right. She borrows the guitar.
Randy takes
Yeah,
the guitar
That's right. That's
and
right.
sings the song.
That's right.
So that's Helen Reddy. 4 other characters to mention.
Okay.
I will mention 3 of them very quickly. Jerry Stiller, Norman Fell, and Conrad Janus as Sam, Bill, and Arnie.
3 drunk dudes. Jerry Stiller sleeps through the whole thing.
They are like couldn't be more minor
Yeah.
in terms of how much they actually have to do with
Except
the plot.
that one of them is Jerry Stiller.
Right. Well, one of them is Norman Fell.
I don't know who that is.
He was in Three's Company.
All right.
He's in a lot of stuff.
Fine.
He was the one who wasn't Don Knotts. It doesn't matter.
I don't know who that is. I mean,
Okay.
I know who Don Knotts is, but
Don't worry about it. They are the most mid 70s people in this movie.
they're like salesmen on a trip or something.
They have nothing to do with anything. They're drunk and annoying and funny. And Jerry Stiller is great in everything he's in.
Yeah. Even though he sleeps through this whole thing.
All right. Now, the last person,
Yeah.
I actually want to wait a minute before we talk about him.
Okay, you want to get through the rest of the plot real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
All right. So, little plane hit the big plane. Pilots are all out of it. Karen Black is flying the plane.
Very low through the mountains.
Yeah,
like,
right?
extremely low.
Apparently, they rented a big plane for like literally 2 days
Yeah.
and shot all of the exteriors.
Makes sense.
It's actually gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like there's all these shots of it flying through the mountains, as you say, 50 feet above the
Well,
ground. And
basically,
it's beautiful.
we're given to understand that the reason they're so low is they were like coming into land, and that's why they hit the little plane. But they
Yes.
were like basically only at like 10,000 feet or something.
Right.
So
And the plane head happens halfway through.
yeah.
Like
Like
there's
there's a lot before.
there's a
it.
lot of tension.
Yeah.
Like there's literally a moment in it where like everything's completely fine and then like they're experiencing no problems. And what did you say?
I said they're experiencing some dramatic music, that's for sure.
It was very
And
funny.
you thought that was very funny.
It was
Anyway,
very funny.
Let's keep moving on.
At the end of the day, here's some stuff that is happening. Everyone on the plane knows that the stewardess is flying the plane.
They don't like it.
And you know what? Valid.
Fine.
Valid.
Why, you wouldn't want that to be.
No, I wouldn't want that.
No.
And she's freaking out, and she's on the radio with the ground, and they're walking her
Well,
through
she's on the
everything.
radio with Charlton Heston in the small plane.
Yes, so he is a captain, and he like trains their pilots.
Yeah, he is like the perfect person to talk her through this because he trains people how to fly 747s.
So there's a bunch of tiny little planes. There's like one Air Force plane that's flying alongside the plane to
yeah,
check it
and
out.
there's like a helicopter.
Later, yeah.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
so they're on a little plane is some dude that doesn't matter, George Kennedy, whose wife and son are on the plane, and he's also the vice president of the airline.
That's right.
And Charlton Heston, who is Charlton Heston.
Yes, and he calls her honey about 1,000,000 times.
Literally 1,000,000.
Yeah.
It's too many times.
Too many times.
Very condescending.
Well, what I said to you was like, at least she is actively his girlfriend. Like,
Yeah.
at least he's not just calling her honey like you would call any lady honey.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
No, I know, but Charlton Heston would.
Not all men, you know.
Yeah, just Charlton Heston.
Okay. So they formulate a plan because they basically realize they have 3 options. Option 1, admittedly, no one's on board with this option. This is the option they don't want.
Yeah.
Which is the plane crashes and everyone dies.
No, that's bad.
They don't want that option, but it is an option.
Yes.
Option number 2 is she lands the plane,
Yes.
which they have
Probably not going to happen.
bad idea. They have no confidence
It's
in that.
very hard to land a plane.
She has no confidence in that.
She's not going to do it.
Option number 3 is get some glorious idiot to get on the plane.
Which is possible because there's a giant hole where the windshield ought to be,
So they get
which we already know is man-sized because a man got sucked out.
Major John Alexander,
Well,
played by Ed Nelson.
I just want to be clear that so when the small plane gets up there, they're like, "Oh, there's a big hole. We got to get a guy in. There's like no other way." And someone is like, "That's crazy, impossible." And Charlton Heston's like, "Well, I'll do it."
No, they literally say, I think the line is like, well, who would we even get to do that? And Charlton Heston just goes, well, me.
Yeah, and he like shrugs in a very funny way. And this is dismissed immediately with, "No, you're too damn big."
Yeah.
So then they have to call the Air Force, and the Air Force is like, "What? No. Well, I guess we do have someone that kind of specializes in this."
Yep.
It's like, well, okay, if you have a guy, why were you so hesitant to begin with?
Just a glorious idiot.
They get this glorious idiot.
And he is so full of confidence.
He's such a hero. He gets off the helicopter and he's pushing the reporters aside. And he's like, "I'm great."
They get up on another little plane. No, a helicopter.
It's a helicopter.
Here's what's happening. Most of the people we're following are on the plane. The plane is having a bad time. There's a helicopter in front of the plane, and the helicopter contains one George Kennedy, one Charlton Heston, and one glorious idiot.
And like a couple other guys.
Yeah, they don't matter. They get the glorious idiot on a line, and they send him down towards the
You
plane.
said this. It was so funny when you said it the first time, and now you're.
It's
you
just
said
how I
it
remember
so many
him.
times. Yeah. Okay.
It's how I remember him.
Okay.
So they get him close to the hole, and I have a question for you.
Yes, dear.
How effective do you think both he is at getting into the plane and also Karen Black is at helping him get into the plane?
Well, a couple things.
Yes.
One, both people that try this go head first, which seems to me.
Wait, why would there be a second person? Are you spoiling something?
Just skip that for the moment.
Okay.
It seems to me you'd want to go feet first, but I guess head first makes sense. I was saying, like, I guess it's like a baby. Like, once you get the head in, like, the rest of it will just follow. So they both go head first, which just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. B, we then find out there's all of this debris in the way that the stewardess is trying desperately to clear, like, as the guy is coming in the door, and she had so much time. Why could she not have cleared this debris beforehand?
Like, it's not like the plan is a surprise. They've
No.
told her what the plan is.
Because what ends up happening is the glorious idiot gets his head in. She's kind of like just pawing at him, and I'm screaming at the TV, "Grab his head! Grab his head!" Because he's got like a hood with over his helmet, and like all you have to do is like get your hand on that. You just grab his head.
She's not grabbing anything. She's just waving her hands at him.
She's just like waving her hands at him, and then he gets his release. Just very coincidentally, he gets his release mechanism caught in a piece of debris that just happens to be bent over in exactly the right way, and it snags, and he goes flying off, and everyone on the plane starts screaming because they've seen the whole thing.
Which also, by the way,
impossible.
When
was the last time you from your seat in a 747? When was the last time you saw what the side of the cockpit looked like from the outside?
It's so stupid.
Yes.
But he is super dead.
He's super dead.
Then they think, okay, well, we're back to our first two options. The plane crashes or she lands it.
And Charlton Heston, bless him.
I got a secret for you guys.
Yes.
That man was not the only glorious idiot on this helicopter.
He starts taking off his clothes.
Strap me in. I'm leaping into action.
He takes off his pants, takes off his shirt.
He gets in all this stuff, and he gets on the line, and he makes it into the plane. Which
Long story short, he makes it into the plane.
You know it's going to happen.
And he lands the plane.
There's
nothing. Once he's on the plane, everything's fine.
Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a little bit of thing that once he lands, like, the brakes are not great, so, like, there's a question of whether or not he's able to stop, and it kind of skids off the end of the runway a little bit, but, like, everybody's fine.
There's so much manufactured drama in it. Well, it's fiction. It's all manufactured drama.
Yeah.
But, like, one of the three douchebags that I was talking about, the three drunk guys, the one who isn't Norman Feller, Jerry Stiller, he like says, "Well, I'm gonna go see what's going on in this cockpit."
Freaking out.
And he like makes his way up to the cockpit, and it's such a nothing scene.
It's just like, get him out of here.
Well, it's just Karen Black and Charlton Heston both yelling at him, just go like, "Get the fuck out of here! What are you doing?" He says, "I want to know what's going on," and they're both, "Get the fuck out of here!"
And then he does.
And that's it.
That's it.
So the plane lands.
Yes.
And the movie is over.
Yes. And they kiss dramatically.
Yeah. And grossly.
I hate a kiss. I hate non-screen kiss. I just hate it.
Especially if it's Charlton Heston.
Blah.
He's just gross. He looks like
Blah.
he is like Halitosis the Man to me.
Well, his teeth are kind of bad, so it makes you think like maybe his breath is bad.
Yeah, not even like just yellow.
And
a lot of people had yellow teeth back then. It's set off by his yellow turtleneck.
He's just craggy.
Yeah.
Generally craggy.
Karen Black can do better.
She can do much better.
I think we can all agree to that.
She's much younger than him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what the appeal possibly is, unless she's attracted to this sort of, like, daring do of this guy.
Well, I don't think anyone anyone who is Charlton Heston would think that a woman wouldn't be attracted to Charlton Heston.
No, Charlton Heston definitely thinks that all women are attracted to Charlton Heston.
Yes.
Which I am here to say incorrect.
Right.
He is gross.
How do you feel about Robert Redford?
He's dreamy.
Okay. And that's like, that's it.
the end.
So, but it is crazy to me just how clear a delineation there was between what 0 Hour brought to Airplane and what Airport 75 brought to Airplane.
0 Hour was like the general like script and plot, and Airport 75 was all of, as you say, like the set dressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, both 100% worth watching.
100%. Like non-ironic. Well, I guess a little ironically. Airport 75 is ironic in its enjoyability.
0 Hour's fun as like a fun 50s B movie.
Yeah. But Airport 1975, I would put in the same ballpark as like Valley of the Dolls or something really campy that's like just real fun to watch.
Yeah. Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure.
Poseidon Adventure.
I'm not even comparing them in terms of quality, but like,
just like
they are part of the same.
the way it feels to watch them.
Totally.
Cool. Was there anything you wanted to wrap up with? Did you want to bring it back around to Airplane, or you think we cracked it?
You know, we went through this whole crazy story, beginning with this one short story that Arthur Haley wrote that led to one of the best comedies ever made.
Yes.
We're not going to talk about Airport 75 as an adaptation or 0 Hour as an adaptation, but let's talk about Airplane. Here's the two big questions. Do you think Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker cared about 0 Hour and Airport 75?
No, I think they thought they were bad and dumb.
Like, I think they enjoyed them the same way we enjoyed them.
Yeah, totally.
But there's one thing about it that I do think shows how much they cared. They really wanted the plane in Airplane to be a prop plane, like in 0 Hour.
Oh, yeah.
And Michael Eisner was the head of the studio and said to them, well, if you want a prop plane, you can do that, but it's going to have to be with a different studio.
Oh, no.
Because you're going to use a modern plane. But what they ended up doing, they shot a modern plane, but when they did the sound mix, anytime the plane is on screen and you hear it,
you can hear the propellers.
it's a prop plane.
That's great.
So I'm going to put it on the line.
Okay.
I think I think they cared a little bit.
Okay.
In the way that we care about a really fun movie.
Sure.
Did they do a good job?
Yes.
Do you think we'd even be talking about 0 Hour if it wasn't for Airplane?
No. No. But I guess my question is, do you think we'd even be talking about Airplane if they hadn't done a good job? Because there's a million like cheesy spoof movies in the world that you're not talking about more than 2 or 3 years later. And this is like almost 40 years later. And we're still talking about this as a great movie.
This is the crazy thing. So this is in the long line of, did you know that Beauty and the Beast was closer to the moon landing than it is to today? Blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Like, so 0 Hour was 57.
Yeah.
And Airplane was 23 years later.
Right.
Airplane came out 38 years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
well, Airplane came out only 5 years after Airport 1975.
That's
like
crazy.
It was an immediate, very close parody.
I think not only did they do a great job, they made one of the best comedies ever made, and they made something that, like, inadvertently immortalized 0 Hour and Airport 75 and the rest of the airport movies.
Yeah.
They did a great job.
It's a great job.
Well, this has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @AdaptCast. And if you tweet about the show, don't forget to use the AdaptCast hashtag. You can follow our groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and you can also find and follow me on Letterboxd. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are 2 great ways to do it. First, tell a friend. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would be greatly appreciated. So there. Now, sweetie, surely you've come up with some kind of joke for the end of this episode.
I have not, and don't call me Shirley.